Well, let's go to the United States now. In fact, to New Hampshire, which is holding a pivotal role in the primaries today.
There are 30 Republicans on the party's ballot and 28 on the Democratic ballot. Recent polls show that U.S. Republican presidential candidate John Kasich has about 12 to 14% of voters' support, well behind mogul Donald Trump, who's widely expected to win the contest in New Hampshire.
Kasich's poll numbers are close to those of Marco Rubio, a U.S. Senator from Florida. He finished third in last Monday's Iowa caucuses, behind Trump and the eventual winner Ted Cruz, a U.S. Senator from Texas.
For the latest, we now cross live to our U.S. correspondent Nick Harper. He's in New Hampshire and has been following proceedings very closely. A very good evening to you, Nick. New Hampshire has been good hunting ground for Clinton in the past. In 2008, she beat Barack Obama there, but it seems like 2016 is going to be a different story.
Absolutely, yes. It's a tough time for Hillary Clinton. Going into New Hampshire, she is not expected to do well. Her rival, Bernie Sanders, seems to have an unassailable lead. The polls say almost double the amount of support that Hillary Clinton has. She only narrowly beat him in the last vote a week ago in Iowa. That was the first in the nation. She beat him by just 0.2%. She was really hoping that these first few states would get some good momentum behind her campaign, really get her going. The problem with New Hampshire, though, is that the neighbouring state of Vermont is where Bernie Sanders is the senator. So he has lots of support in this region of the country. Hillary Clinton, though, is likely to do better in later states because Bernie Sanders doesn't seem to be able to connect with minority voters or African-American voters. And that's an area that Hillary Clinton does particularly well in. So Bernie Sanders likely to win big here in New Hampshire, but going forward to the other states, we're likely to see something of a turnaround for Hillary Clinton, or at least that's what she's hoping.
Sanders does seem to be connecting with millennial women, though. Is Clinton concerned about the fact that women seem to go to the Sanders rallies more often than they come to hers?
Well, it's an interesting point because she is a woman running to become the first president of the United States. She has in the past had good female votes, but the older generations, the over 45, those millennials, as you say, they're turning much more towards the Bernie Sanders campaign. It seems that the younger generation of voters want to have a female president, but at some point, and they feel perhaps that it will happen in their lifetime, and they're not sure whether it's Hillary Clinton that they want to be the first woman. So those female millennials are happy to choose Bernie Sanders this time round, very much joining in his message that seems to chime well with the youth vote. And Hillary is struggling with those younger female voters.
So still early days, but what will it mean for Bernie Sanders' campaign should he be victorious here in New Hampshire?
Well, it would certainly be a huge boost for him, especially if he wins big. It is now a two-horse race in the Democrat race between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. He hopes to do well here, and he hopes that if he does, that will simply give more momentum to his campaign and will also bring in more donors who are willing to contribute money to keep him in the race for longer. As for his campaign staff, a big win here will give them much support, much encouragement as they head to the next states of Nevada and South Carolina. But like I said, further on down the field, especially when you get to the southern states of America with larger, more diverse African-American communities, those are the battlegrounds where Bernie Sanders is likely to struggle.
Nick, that's the Democratic race. Talk to us about the Republican race. We're hearing names now like Kasich. Is Trump likely to be victorious there? Because after falling short in Iowa, he's probably a bit anxious to see how he'll do here.
Well, yes, again, if we look at the polls, Donald Trump is streets ahead of everybody else. But he was leading in the polls going into Iowa, and he ended up placing second. And the polls here in New Hampshire are often proved wrong. It's called the graveyard of the pollsters because, quite simply, the polling figures are often completely inaccurate. So it's a wildly unpredictable state. Anything can happen. John Kasich is hoping for a boost here. He did win the first few votes that were cast at midnight. The small town of Dixville Notch, it has just 12 residents. They to vote, and John Kasich was the man that they chose from the Republican side. It's an area that he's hoping to get some good ground. He may not win though, but he may get a second or third placing. He's hoping that that would give him momentum going forward. But Trump's campaign does at least still seem to be going strong.
And Nick, from here, where do we go?
Well, from here, we'll be moving to other states. We've had Iowa, this is New Hampshire. After this, it's South Carolina and Nevada. The Democrats and the Republicans hold their primaries there on different days. And then we get to Super Tuesday. That's the 1st of March, when 14 of the 50 US states will be choosing their preferred candidate. That is a very big day. We may see some of the lower placed Republicans, because remember, there's still 8 of them in the race. If they place lower here in New Hampshire, they may drop out. We often see New Hampshire as a winnowing state. So by the time we get to Super Tuesday, we may have less Republicans in the field. But if we don't, if we still have the current 8, when we get to Super Tuesday, that really will sort the men out from the boys, separate the wheat from the chaff. And then it's still a very long process until the conventions in the summer, in July, when the nominees from each party are chosen. They then slug it out all the way until the election on November the 8th.
That was our correspondent, Nick Harper, coming to us live from New Hampshire.